Wilson, a licensed associate counselor. Our guest for the evening is Shamina Allen, who is the author of A City Set on the Hill, correct? Yes. And she's the founder of Why. We'll talk more about her book and her organization shortly, but right now we're going to start her story. So Shamina, thank you so much for talking with me, sharing your life with me. You're welcome. So why don't we begin by you just sharing your story?
Well, wow, where do I begin? It's a story of a young girl myself who grew up in the Bronx. My mother and my father were both addicts, and I really had I had no childhood. I grew up raising my brothers and sisters and taking care of my mother.
How old are you now?
30.
30. Okay.
I'm 30, and it was from that experience that I think I just drew this dependency to take care of others and to do for others. And around the time that I was in high school, my mother, she went to rehab. She got herself together, and it was around high school age where I was able to really just think about Shamina and kind of relinquish the power into her hands to take care of my siblings and really start to just be a teenager. You know, I was about 15, and I really just got a chance to focus on me, and I struggled, you know, with the identity issue of just knowing who I was and how do you be a 15-year-old and how do you begin to just do 15-year-old things and mingle in with other kids that are in a totally different lifestyle than me and used to totally different things. So, you know, that's Shamina. And from that, in high school was when I met my husband that I was with for 3 years, and he was my best friend. And I really, I was at a place where I was just locked in a cage. I felt like I didn't know, I was alone and no one understood me. And I wanted so much to live and to have that teenage experience. And when I met him, that is when everything changed.
Well, tell us about that.
Everything changed. He is a person that is just full of life. And he lives by his own rules. He really doesn't conform to any systems. And he just really, it's all about fun. And he was the perfect person to take me from being in that cage to just introducing me to the world, so you would say, forcing me to have fun, forcing me to smile and live, and really giving me that experience that I yearned for.
So when you met him, you found yourself attracted to his aura, so to speak?
Yes, okay. It was like a pulling. It wasn't so much romantic in the beginning because my mind wasn't even thinking on that level, to be totally honest, but I knew I wanted to live, and I knew that something about him would not allow me to just pass him by as I did so many people. People just became faces, and I didn't care to know about them because I didn't want them to ask about me. But with him, it was this yearning to talk to him, to get to know his story, what brought him so much joy, what made him who he was. Mm-hmm. And it was that thirst, that desire that brought me to the place that I am now.
So how'd you end up marrying him?
It was after many, like about 3 or 4 bad relationships, and my friend being there to just cradle me through them all. It was him being like a vault, keeping my secrets, and it was a level of trust that was built. And from that, I think I was able to say, when he presented the idea of marriage, though I questioned it, and you know, I thought to myself, okay, is this going to be all right? I took the leap of faith because I said, you know, for anybody, if I was going to do it for anybody, I'd do it for him.
How did he ask you to marry him?
Well, it was weird because you would think that it was a fairy tale, down on one knee type of thing, and it wasn't. I kind of walked into it. It was something that, you know, he asked me one day sitting in the car, if I asked you to marry me, what would you say? And I thought for a second, and then it just came out. I said, yeah, I would say yes. And then that was it. You know, he got on the phone 2 seconds later, called a friend of his, and said, I'm getting married. And that's the way it happened. The next day we were in ring shops, shopping for rings. And it was like, next we're planning a wedding. It just I sort of stumbled right into it, kind of.
And what was your idea of homosexuality then? Did you not know that, or what did you think? Did you think that it would succeed, the marriage?
I thought to myself, I was a little naive about the issue of homosexuality, coming from such a closed-in life where, you know, I'm used to dealing with hunger and issues of poverty and things like that. But homosexuality wasn't something that was in my family. It wasn't something I've seen before. So I was a little naive to what it meant to be homosexual and the extent and the dynamics that are attached to it. So when I went into it, I thought he was something that if he said he didn't want to do it anymore, that it was just that simple. He wasn't going to do it anymore. It was something that had happened. I looked at it as being a product of his molestation as a child. And I thought to myself that he can overcome it the way I overcome the hardships in my life.
So how did he present it? Did he say, I don't want to be gay anymore? Or how did he?
Yeah, it was a conversation that we had, a very deep conversation. And I expressed to him my fear, basically. And the fear was that we were going to get even closer by getting married and that you would leave. And, you know, he assured me that this is not something he wants to do. He's not proud of his actions. It's not him. It's something that he's adopted along the way, and he wants to live a totally different lifestyle. And I respected that. I respected that from my friend. I respected his position and his circumstances, and I accepted him as he, you know, as he was.
So you thought he was genuine and
yes,
sincere?
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, so then you have the whole preparing for the wedding. What was the response from your family and friends?
Oh, that was a battle, because though they were used to me being like the patriarch of the family, like being the head of the household, when that happened, everything shifted, and it was like there were two battles going on. There was the battle of, you're not going to take our golden goose, the person who is going to be there for us when we call. You're taking too much of her time. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. Then there was the battle of, but wait a minute, you know, he's gay. And they blatantly right out, you know, labeled it, he's gay. You better not do this. You know, it's this, he's taking you for a ride. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, you know, you only know half the story. He was molested. And, you know, I knew that it was going to be hard for other people to understand why I was choosing to do this. But I really had all faith in it. I believed that my decision was grounded and rooted in a solid friendship. And it was something that they didn't want to have any parts of.
Right.
They weren't very active in the wedding process. I took him with me to go dress shopping, to try my dresses on. So it was a lonely process. It was just me, just him. And it only added to the connection of it's just us against the world type of idea that we had.
Did some of your friends and family call you a fool and say, girl, please, are you kidding?
Definitely. Definitely. You're a fool, Shamina. You know, some of his family claimed that I was desperate. And I was obsessed with having children. I don't know where they would get some of these ideas from, because we were still only like about 20, 24, about 24 years old. And I was wondering, why would they think something like that? But it's, you know, so many different accusations flying. You know, you're desperate. You need to take some time to think about this. You're stupid. You're foolish. You're naive. And it really, at the time, I was so headstrong that it was like my mind was made up.
Right.
I was going to give it a shot.
Yeah. Now, were you concerned at all with being sexually compatible with him? That you'll have any problems when it came down to the bedroom?
That was just an issue with the whole being naive, because I really didn't think that far. I thought, the funny thing that you say, because I think of a time where we actually sat inside of marriage counseling, and the pastor of marriage counseling asked us, he said, if there ever came a time where he would want to be intimate with a man, what would you do? And, you know, we turned, we looked at each other, and we laughed, we giggled. And we said, oh, we'll figure something out. And that was as far as the concern went. That was as far as the counseling session went. And it was an issue that I didn't even think about.
Really?
Didn't even wonder how, because I just thought that love would surpass everything. I honestly was in the clouds thinking that, you know, how could you not be attracted to someone that you love so much, in spite of what you've been through?
Right.
How could the connection and the spark not be there?
So would you describe your relationship as being one where you were in love, or would you call it just simply loving him, having a strong love for him?
It's a combination of both. It depends on when you ask me, because in the beginning, if you ask me what I was thinking at that particular moment, I was thinking I was in love, and I genuinely loved him. A combination of both. But after the smoke clears and everything's said and done, I
Right.
definitely feel different. You know, today I
Right.
know some of that love stemmed from the dysfunction from both of our sides.
Both
Some of
sides.
it was just a dysfunctional connection with someone who shared a like struggle.
Okay. Okay. So let's move forward. Now
Okay.
you get married, and what happens?
I get married, and what they call the honeymoon phase lasts for about a week, and then I start to see signs of this may not have been the best decision that I think I could have
Why?
made. I think he started to, it's but so long you can pretend to be something that you're not. And I really do believe he had all the intentions in the world to try to be the best husband he could be. But the reality of waking up to a woman 24/7, the reality of dealing with just the emotions of a woman, the pulling, the natural pull that, just happens, the chemistry between man and woman. I don't think he made a budget for that. And I think that he really couldn't deal with the pressure. And so after that week, when we got to actually live in the house together, we got to every day, all the time, I began to notice that he was very short. It was gradual, but it started about a week after.
You mean having a temper, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
just very irritated
Okay.
with just me, period. Just natural things that I was just doing, just irritated with it. Sexually, within that week, I started to notice a change, a difference.
Okay.
And it was just like a constant battle to just accomplish the things that should come naturally in a marriage.
Okay.
Just the natural chemistry between two people who agreed to spend the rest of their life together was a very big struggle for us.
So did you begin to have like ongoing conflicts and arguments? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the conflicts began and the arguing started, and then it escalated into physical abuse. So it really took its toll. It started as like, okay, I don't like the way you're doing this, so can you please, give me space in the bed, move over, to I'm going for your neck, I'm so agitated.
Wow.
So it really took a jump and a leap over the course of that 3 years.
So did you start having regrets at that point?
I didn't regret it. I was more determined. I guess it was coming from a place where I came from, where my mother and my father were both addicts. I think because I overcompensated for them a lot, and I was used to bending in areas that no person should bend, it was really dysfunctional compromise I was used to. I think that is why when times got rough between me and him, so I counted it as so many different things before I just really had to come to the realization that this is not where he wants to be. And
Okay, so how did it progress? Did it progress?
it got to the point where, like I said, once the physical abuse started to happen, it was but so much of that I could take, because it was really wearing on me. I was in college at the time, and I was struggling with just trying to manage that, and then manage, just trying to be a new bride. And, I'm a new wife, I'm young, and I had self-esteem issues still, and I was trying to budget it all. And then the abuse just topped it. It was verbal, it was physical. And I knew it's either him or me. I have to choose. I'm either going to go down in flames with this, or I'm going to jump ship, because somebody's going to get hurt.
Right.
And most likely it's going to be me.
Right.
So
did you wind up ending it?
I ended the relationship. I moved out for the 4th time.
Wow.
And this time was for sure. This time was it. And it was weird, because it wasn't like I chose to move out. He actually came clean, said, look, I don't want to do this anymore, and I want you to move out. So I was I guess you could say I was kicked out.
Right.
And I had to say, okay, he gave me an ultimatum. He said, you can stay, but we won't be together. But, we can still live together. I mean, we were friends before. And I said, yeah, I don't think that that's something that I can do. So that's when the choice came in. I'm going to leave now.
Right.
And I took only the clothes that I had. I invested so much in our home, and I just picked up what I could take, and I left.
Right.
And it was just a really nasty breakup. It was really, really bad. It was one of those, yelling and screaming, and, I guess towards the end of the relationship, it was so many dynamics spiritually that were going on, battles in him that he was dealing with. Everything just arose to the head, and it was him saying that, he thought I was doing witchcraft on him. He thought I was praying prayers over his food. It got so bad, he got so paranoid, that at the end when I was leaving, he was just shouting out different scriptures of things that would happen to me, and if I'm evil, and it really was a scary place.
Right.
That day was a scary day because I knew I had to choose, because you could stay and then it's really gonna all explode,
Right.
or you can leave now and decide to really take serious when someone shows you who they are. Really take it seriously and act on just what you see. Act on that.
So what do you say to people who say, "I told you so"?
That was the hardest part for me. I think that's why I stayed so long, because I forced it. I wanted it to work. I tried everything that a person could try, counseling and just, self-reflection, and it wasn't working. And I think the fear of just hearing, "We told you so," the fear of saying your marriage failed. It was funny because around the time we got married, a lot of our friends were getting married, and mine was the only one that so-called failed.
Right.
And it was like I didn't want to be that person. I did not want to be the one to have the sad story. But I knew that it was something I had to do. I had no choice but to face the fire. And it was rough to hear. It was rough to see people, with the faces, and you knew what they were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I put myself back into that shell. I became the old Shamina.
Right.
And I went back into my shell.
So now that the marriage is over, what happened as a result? I mean, what happened within as a woman? What were you thinking? What was your next step going to be?
I think after it was because even though the relationship was over and we were divorced in 2009, it still was going. The paperwork was done, but the relationship was not dissolved. Every other year, he would come back and we would try to fix it. And, I would be calling and arguing and want to know who you with, what you're doing. Though the paperwork went through, the relationship was everything but over. And it wasn't until last year that 2011, that I actually, 2010, I'm sorry, 2010, that I actually decided to say, "Shamina, you got to let this thing go. You've got to let it go. You've got to try to do something with yourself and figure out who you are." And I just got tired. I got tired of being consumed with him and not loving myself.
Mm.
And in that process, I decided to write a book. And I decided to put all of the pain and the emotion and the confusion into words.
Were you angry, Shamina, about the whole thing, or at him?
I was very angry. And I didn't realize how angry I was until I actually started to write the book, and I actually started to put down and revisit those places and discover that I was very upset. I am very upset. And that's it happened just like that, like an epiphany right at the computer. And I said, "I'm very upset. I'm very angry." And I wanted to express that scattered thought, that reflection, and finding myself through every word that is in that book was a revelation to me. And I really discovered that I'm hurt and I'm totally pissed off.
Right.
And it's like, it's okay to be that.
Right.
And that was a portion that I didn't want to visit, because I always wanted to be looked at as this person or this woman who has, the rose that grew from concrete, and now she's walking with her head held high and she's fine, and look at her go.
Right.
When there were really issues that did not leave yet. There
Right.
were things that I didn't deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that anger.
So your book, does it serve as therapy for you? Or did it serve
Definitely.
as therapy?
Definitely. I think it was the best therapy that I've ever encountered, and I would recommend it. That's how good it was, because it forced you, with every detail that you have to write to someone as if they didn't know you. It's like hearing yourself for the first time. And I saw what parts of me were things that were Shamina, and what parts of me were things that I adopted that other people have given me due to circumstances in my life. And I really went on a quest to find out and to figure out who Shamina is, without taking care of my brothers and sisters, without being directed by, this man who's trying to teach me everything about what it means to be a woman of God, what it means to be a woman, period, dressing me and telling me how to walk and stand. Who is Shamina without the influence of others? And when I really sat down and wrote that book, I realized I had no idea who I was.
Do you know now?
Still, I think that in everyone, every day that we're on this earth is a process of figuring out who you are and the different depths of you. I think a person is so complex that no one knows. And it's a quest that will go on forever until the day, my eyes close and I leave this earth. And I think that it's an adventure that I never thought could be so gratifying. Just everything that women take for granted. The idea of saying, I'm going to pick my own hairdo, I'm going to pick the color of my own nails, is something that I struggle with. And that's something that is so real that other women dealing with it and dealing with issues like this can relate to.
Right.
The natural, I'm going to get up today and present myself to the world is a struggle. And I struggle, it's a struggle for me to be able to make certain decisions about my outer exterior and how I present myself to people, because I'm used to someone's opinion. I'm used to someone telling me, you know, no, do this, or too much makeup, and I don't know what to choose. Right. and the things that you learn as a 6-year-old, you know, playing with colors and dressing yourself for a tea party that I missed is what I'm learning now as an adult.
Yeah.
And
so what do you hope from your book? What is your ultimate message?
I think the ultimate message of the book is to define you. Allow God to define you. Allow your essence to define you. And try to separate yourself from the things that people have given you. The hang-ups, the insecurities, the pressures that you've adopted from others. Try fight somehow to figure out what's yours and what's theirs and give it back. And at the end of the day, you'll be left with you, and you can accept yourself for exactly who you are.
I like that.
Thank you.
Now, what about your organization? Why? How is that connected to your book?
Well, it's so connected. I find it hard to sometimes separate it, because the book was an introduction and a liberation for me. And the program is my gift to other women dealing with what I'm dealing with. It is a gift to other men struggling with the way my husband struggled. And a lot of people would think that it was a hate group, because it's basically a group. It started out as a support group for ex-wives of homosexual men. And it has evolved into a nonprofit organization located in the Jersey City, New Jersey area. And what I do is we just try to allow women give women a place that they can come and be accepted for the interesting and the unique dynamics of a relationship like this. The Y stands for Women of Homosexual Yokes. And that simply means women who have tied themselves together in a relationship with homosexual men. And the uniqueness of these women, they are, a lot of times people would think, oh, these are women who are desperate or they're crazy. You get this fictitious view of us based on what Jerry Springer is showing you, based on what all these TV shows are telling you. And these shows, the propaganda of it is just making it look like it's a soap opera.
Right.
And it really is. These are real women with real hearts, with real education, with real essence. And they are very powerful women, whether they realize it or not. And I wanted to show the face of a woman of homosexual yoke. I wanted to tell the real story, another story, because there's so many different variations of how a woman can find herself in this situation.
Of the same theme.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it really was, my desire to do this came from the results, the after effects. I didn't know how bad or how so-called messed up I was until after I was out of that relationship, and I mean really out of it, and I began to write my book, and I began to try to get into other relationships, and I realized, whoa, there's some deep issues here. There's some finding out that you need to do. You need to figure it out. Yeah, a lot with just, what I would expect, like being comfortable with another man, and just men, period. The way, the naturalness of a man that sometimes doesn't require all the extra stuff that comes with dealing with a man that is homosexual.
Right. Now, your book and your organization, do you find that there are many women who can relate to your story and the issue that you went through? I mean, are there really lots of women who deal with having homosexual husbands? Or talk about women you found.
I think that it is such a relevant topic for right now. It is such a unique opportunity to be able to present this book during this season, because I believe that it is so relevant. So many times we don't want to hear it. We don't want to see the truth. We want to cover it up with so many different things. The idea of homosexuality now is turned into a fashion and a fad. And it really is something that it's happening. It's happening so often, and I can't express it enough. There's no face for a man with homosexual, who is a homosexual. It's changed its face. It's changed its look. There is no, there's so many books of how to tell if your man is gay,
right.
and there's no way that you can do that now.
Right.
It's no longer, tight clothes and a switch.
Right.
It's totally different. I guess me being a thinker and a person who analyzes everything, I know that in everyone in our life, it's a level of ownership and maturity that we all must own up to. And I think that it's basically saying that at a certain point, I think we all know what we're involved in. And whether it's for a split second, you have a split second to make a choice as to whether you're going to act on this hypothesis or this thought that you have in your head of maybe he is, or maybe something's wrong, or something doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And you have that split second to say, I'm going to deal with this issue, or I'm going to tuck it away and put it in the back of my mind and move on with my current life that I have now. And that's the thing that I present to women that say that. It's in everything we do. No different from dealing with a man who, maybe you've heard that he was so-called a dog before he met you, and he had other children out of wedlock, but you'll be his third wife. Mm-hmm. You'll voluntarily walk into a marriage and be a man's third wife. It's no different. Somehow, somewhere, you think it'll be different. Right. That you'll make the difference, that every situation is unique. And that's how I found myself here.
So you're saying that women who have found out their husbands were gay, they really already knew in a way?
In a way, with each person that I've ever spoken with about the issue, every woman that I've ever spoke to, there was a point in the relationship where the question was posed in their minds. It was a self-reflection. Okay. I think that this is something I should be worried about. I feel that there may be something more to this issue. My husband is something's different. Right. And it's whether they chose to act on it at that moment or to continue with the relationship. But there was a moment where the question was proposed, and it was, I should think about this. Mm-hmm. But a lot of us are not ready to face that yet. We're not ready to give up, or deal with the children on our own, to deal with the family in the house. A lot of times the male is the breadwinner. Right. Are you really ready for a life-changing experience? Because that's what it is when you come to the realization, or you come to the acceptance of, my husband is gay. Right. It's life-changing.
Okay, so when you actually have group sessions or talk with these women, what generally is the topic of discussion? Do you have different topics at different points, or?
Yes, it's the topics are usually surfaced around dealing with the anger, dealing with just being able to say it out of your mouth and not want to cry or not want to break down, to be comfortable with the fact that, my name is Shamina and my husband is a transsexual. To say, hey, I was married to a man that had this issue. Right. Because you start to question, what does it say about you? Mm-hmm. And that's what we try to focus on with these women. I don't want to focus too much on the relationship per se, or the male, when I'm speaking with the women, mm-hmm. because I really want to let them know that there's life past that. Right. There's a you to worry about. You did enough worrying about, just the dynamics of, is people going to notice? I see something, how can I cover it up? Right. The day-to-day life is so crazy that when they come to me, when they come to why, I want them to feel like this is about you. Right. This today is about you. And it's about how you feel. And it's about accepting who you are. And realizing that just because their decisions don't have to dictate anything about you. You can be a completely different circumstance. And a lot of them, question. I went through that phase of questioning your own sexuality, because you're saying to yourself, okay, some of them passed the threshold of saying, I knew at a certain point, but I couldn't let go. What does that say about me? Mm-hmm. What does that say about my sexuality, that I'm staying with a man that I know is gay?
What make you think?
Yeah. So it's just dealing with those dynamics, dealing with them, the woman, the individual.
Okay. So let's go back to your ex-husband now. Are you talking with him, or are you not friends anymore?
Well, now we are friends. Okay. We are friends enough to, we've been through enough, and I think I've purged enough of the anger and the bitterness, and I've dealt with it, and I've become comfortable now with the idea that he is who he is, and he has a life to live, and I have one too. And we are still friends. A friendship like ours doesn't die easily, and I think that's why the relationship took so long to dissolve. it doesn't die easily, but it has its place and its purpose. And I think I've learned that now, where to place it and its purpose in my life.
Okay. So you're comfortable?
Yeah, we're comfortable. He's fully aware of the book.
Okay.
And he definitely supports me the best he can.
Okay.
In everything that I'm doing now.
Okay. So one final question. I want to know about what do you hope to really accomplish in your mission with Why and with your book? What is your ultimate goal?
I hope that book is going to change the masses, change the minds of the masses. I hope that it can allow people a look into something that normally some people will never experience. And you know, in this day and age, you never know who's to your left and to your right, and you don't know the dynamics of that person's life. So I hope this book will allow people to just get a peek in to what's happening around them, open up their minds and prepare themselves for the era that we are approaching in this world, and to understand that there is life after circumstance. There's life after so-called spiritual deaths. When people feel like you've gone through so much and you don't have nothing else to give, I want to instill a piece of hope in every life. And I find that even women who haven't gone through what I went through, I want them to be changed just by the perseverance in that book. Just,
so life really does go on.
That life goes on.
Right.
That there is another chapter. Right. And that's my thing, is turning the page.
Right.
You know, and it's like it took me so long to get off that same page. And what I want for people to do is that at the end of that book, they're ready to turn the page to the next chapter in their lives. I hope to take Why. I hope that organization I'm working towards and will put all of my efforts to taking Why international, because I know that it's happening all over the world. I really want it to be a household name. I want it to be an institution that people know about all over, because it's going to be needed. It's going to be needed. And I really think that it's time that someone steps out and forgets about self and forgets about what people think of them and how people are going to view it, and the oohs and the eyes that's going to come along with being a poster person for it, and really begin to think about the dynamics of what's around you, what's in your house. Open up questions. I want to be able to intrigue people to open up dialogue with their husbands that they normally wouldn't. And a book like this is the greatest way to do it, because a lot of women I spoke to struggle with that. Struggle with how to say it, how to ask about the past. Men, how to ask about the past. And I really want this book to ignite a fire that is going to last, and it's going to burn, and it's going to really shake things up and get things in order.
So it'll be thought-provoking, and
yes,
to bring out some action.
Definitely. That it's going to, provoke thought, provoke action, provoke conversation, restoration of relationships. So many women that have been in this situation that I'm in have burned the bridges, have ex-thought, have hate and bitterness in their hearts for their ex-husbands. And I think everybody's in our lives for a reason. And there's no reason that, someone you've loved and shared space and time and energy with, you can't even speak to them on the phone. That's how disgusted you are. You can't even hear their names. So we need to, I hope it promotes forgiveness. I hope it promotes unity amongst people and acceptance. You have to accept people's choices. Right. And we can't hold on to them, and we can't dictate what people do as much as we would like to.
And letting go of baggage.
Yeah, we really have to let it go.
Yes.
And we have to recognize our limitations in others' lives.
Yes.
And that's what I really hope, that it's just life-changing. Life-changing.
This has been great. Thank you so much, and the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.